hate the way my nose looks now. It's changed considerably since I've become a man of 27 plus. Like when I scrunch my face, it looks like this. It's like an arrow nose. I used to make fun of these noses when I would make me's on the Wii. Not anymore. That's me. That's my nose. Wake up, everybody. Today is June 2nd. We are Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk about all the video games we wish we were playing. I'm one of your hosts, Karch Pulaski, joined by my co-host, Jason Wright. If you decide you like us, or just decide you want to financially support our quarter-life crisis, you can find us at neverfreetoplay.com, patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, or on all the other social media where we are Never Free to Play. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, feedback, please send it to us at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Jason, how are you doing?
I am pretty well, my friend. Pretty well. How are you?
I'm all right.
Just all right.
I'm all right.
Okay.
Things they're getting out of control.
Yeah?
Not with me, but with the world.
Well, yeah, obviously.
So, it's depressing.
And I should say that, like, me saying I'm all right, it's got to be like, it's like adjusted for the times. Like, I'm as all right as I could be, I guess.
Of course. No, I understand. Really I don't think you're just sitting here ambivalent to anybody else's plight. But
on a lighter note, my hair's getting longer. I'm gonna have my wife cut it again soon. And I started like trying to work out and diet, so that sucked. So it's just like it's so boring to be healthy.
It really is. I'm watching Rachel do it right now, actually, and she's doing a great job. I'm so proud of her. She's exercising more than she ever has.
Yeah,
and that alone would have been enough, but she's doing the dieting as much as she can, and feels like it on any given day, and it's working. The results are already obvious, both in visually and in her temperament. Not her temperament, but she feels she feels better, and I can tell she feels better.
And also, I forgot to tell you, I'm married to a dog.
Wait, what?
Well, I don't know. That's the only time I've ever really heard the word temperament used is when it's referring to a dog.
That's fair enough. You're right. That's usually an animal-specific term. It can be used for people, though, too. I love you, baby. I promise. You're always a pleasant peach.
Your temperament's always fantastic.
Woof, woof.
Yeah, Lauren's doing the same thing. She's like, and that's kind of, I don't want to say it's like, I don't want to use the word peer pressure because that's like a negative connotation, but she's inspiring me to try to do better because I've been so bad during this whole quarantine thing with like not caring what I eat or how late I stay up or what I drink or whatever. I'm just like, give me all the calories. And so now I'm just trying to like get back to where I was in February.
Right. No, the sleep thing for me is the biggest. Like I keep going to bed at 1 and I have to get up at anywhere between 7 and 8 and it's
same.
Can't do it.
I know. And here's the thing. If they stopped making reality TV so good, it'd be easier to go to sleep. But
please stop watching that garbage. You could have finished You could have finished the Marvel series 3 times over by now. You don't even have to watch the whole thing to finish it.
Well, here's the thing. I got to Ant-Man 2 and I just can't go on any further. I like Paul Rudd. I just didn't like Ant-Man that much.
Just watch the post-credit scene and then move on to the next movie.
No, I can't do it. I'm a completionist.
Ant-Man 2 comes after Infinity War.
Okay, but here's...
Not chronological. See, that's right. You're doing that stupid chronological thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing it in the timeline, not the release.
That's terrible, man. You should have watched...
For everybody who doesn't know, some people online have put together like the timeline of the Marvel movies of where they would have occurred in the timeline of MCU. And so I'm watching them all in that order, including some of the spinoff shows like Daredevil and what's the other one? With
Jessica Jones.
But the other one, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, Dude, I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but that's way too long to like intersperse.
No, what the cool thing is it tells you like watch these 2 movies, then watch these 6 episodes, and then watch this one movie, and then watch these 10 episodes, and it's so cool to see the continuity. I mean, it really is.
That stops after like the first 2 seasons, though.
Well, that's when also I stopped. Actually, I think I watched season 3 as well, maybe 4.
And while that is a fun idea, I feel like I feel like chronological viewings never work, or for games for that matter. Since to stay a little bit on topic and brand, the viewing and playing of games or movies or TV only works chronologically if you've already seen it in the original release format.
Well, and that's the thing is that for the most part, for that first wave, I had seen them all, but Lauren hadn't. So maybe that was a bad choice to make her watch it chronologically for my benefit. But
I mean, I can't imagine her investment's too deep. So
she was getting into it. Yeah. It's just, like I said, we hit Ant-Man 2 and we just can't go on anymore.
I can't with you. I can't. All right. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. And we also have an email, neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Come on, guys.
Give us some questions.
Even if you're never going to listen again.
Here's the thing. Other influencers are too busy for you. We're not influencers. We're just wasting our life and our time to entertain you. So give us some questions, they're never going to read your question, but we will.
We will. And because we have a validation complex, we need your validation. Yeah. And it is best served in the form of feedback, comments, questions, and emails.
Right. Exactly. And then one other thing to note, just for this episode, I forgot to charge my lights. So if they shut off in the middle of the episode, then I'm sorry. And I'm mostly sorry to Greg because he's the only one that cares.
Right. Also, I have a new mic. You can see it. Here it is. Ooh. And it's a ghost, apparently. And I hope I sound a lot better. You're welcome, Sean. And Jason. This is really more for Jason.
Well, yeah, it's mostly for me. But you know what? I'm happy. It'll make me happy. So,
one less thing to talk about and worry about every single week.
Exactly.
We'll move on to more artistic things. Like singing the oldies.
Mustache. Or, like singing in the oldies. Or like finding a way to see each other while we do the podcast. But I am kind of enjoying watching the YouTube video because I can't see you, so I don't know what you're doing during any of this.
You mean watching it after to see how I was acting?
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's like a surprise. I hear you. Yeah, that sounds fun.
It's like unwrapping a gift. And I leave little nuggets in there for you, too.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I'll watch this one, though. Well, mostly because I'll sound good, too.
Yeah.
You better leave me some nuggets, man. Chicken or otherwise.
I was trying to think of something clever to do, but I couldn't.
Well, I did it for you.
Okay.
All right. I was going to talk a little bit about protests and the riots, and I don't have it in me right now, and it would just come out as a garbled mess. I will just simply say that it's a raw deal that's happening, and if you are protesting, we are in full support of that, and please don't be violent, because that's just going to get you one ticket to jail, and no one's going to listen to you at that point, and we just want people to stay safe. But we want the message to get out, and we want the good kind of change to happen as fast as humanly possible, especially as we approach election season in November.
Absolutely. And I was going to just echo what you said. I mean, it's hard, especially during this coronavirus, and like with my son being immunocompromised, I can't participate in any of this, but I'm there mentally. We're donating to some organizations to kind of help with the efforts. We're doing kind of everything we can from the couch, unfortunately. But our thoughts are with you. And like Karch said, just stay safe, be smart, but get the message out and go vote in November, please. And if you're protesting, then you'll probably be okay standing in line at the election office. But if not, make sure you're requesting your absentee ballot far enough in advance to actually get it. Because I think that system's going to unfortunately get overwhelmed because it's not getting the support that it needs from politicians at this time. So
that's correct. Yep. Do as much as you can, I think, is the best way to put it. Don't feel obligated to do anything that you don't feel obligated to do. But if you do feel pulled, do something. Don't let that fester Because unfortunately, that's what leads to a lot of what's happened, is people have good intentions that they just kind of ignore, myself included. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on to some corrections from last week's episode.
Alrighty, Greg, start corrections music now. Okay, so this past week, the Sucker Punch kind of clarified some statements that they made during the State of Play. I think a lot of people looked at that choice in combat system and automatically wanted to tie that to a choice in morality, because that's kind of a thing that Sucker Punch does, and they did it in their Infamous series as well. And I remember them talking about something with like combat and how NPCs will perceive you, and I did the same thing. I automatically wanted to tie it into the morality system. As it turns out, Ghost of Tsushima has no morality system. However, this IGN article from April by Matt Kim, he says in an interview with some of the developers that the player's combat choice can impact interactions with other characters in Ghost of Tsushima. So, for instance, the main character's uncle is a samurai, and he doesn't approve of the ninja skills. And so that could potentially negatively impact your relationship with that character if you rely on the ninja's skill set too heavily. And there are some other characters that they'll list here, so you can go in and read that article. So a bit of a correction. There's no morality system, but your choices have impact, I should say.
Cool. Yeah, I wonder if that means anything, or if it's just like two different potential dialogue, choices that eventually just get said.
Either way.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. Did you want to do this next one?
Sure. Sean wrote in, I don't remember either of us saying this was the case, but I'll just go ahead and clarify that Sean was the best at Smash Brothers Melee. So
we were always competing for what we called technical first, which is actually second.
That's right, because Sean was always, if he was playing, and he was playing as Link specifically, and sometimes other people, he was pretty good with Snake, and who was his kind of like jokey character that he was really good with? Who was it? I think it might have been Yoshi. I don't know,
because you guys played more in college than and I wasn't there.
We did. I think it was Yoshi. My joke character, my quote-unquote joke character was DDD, although DDD was he's not a slouch, especially in Ultimate.
You like the big boys.
I love the big boys. Yeah. And that's kind of recent. I didn't used to be a big boy lover.
Greg, go ahead and end corrections music. Oh my gosh.
Someone's going to call in like, oh, Karch, you've always been a big boy lover.
I did, honestly, I thought about this. I had an idea, and I don't remember. I don't know if you'll remember, but when we were starting up this podcast, I was like, oh, we could start a Google Voice number for our podcast and have people call in and leave their questions as messages.
You did say that, yeah.
I so still want to do that if anybody wants to.
We'll see. I mean, whatever gets them calling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm against it only under the idea that we actually have so many listeners that it's a problem, so it's not right now. So that sounds fun. Sean's, it's nice and early where he's at, so he can give us a call after dinner.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to call in live. I'm just saying, call sometimes during the week, leave your question as a voicemail, and then we'll play it on the air.
Gotcha. All right, so let's do the very short news segment. There was very little going on last week, and definitely very little going on this week in the event of gaming news. A bit of a roller coaster. Jason Schreier's back at it. He is working for Bloomberg now, and he did one of his first big pieces was a rumored Sony PlayStation 5 reveal that was going to, he said it was going to come out on Wednesday, so tomorrow. It ended up being confirmed for the 4th on Thursday, and then that event was canceled in a show of solidarity for the protests going on, and a lot of other companies are doing stuff like that too. So now we're back to no event, which I'm sure, obviously that's only temporary. We might see it as soon as next week or the week after that. But it's kind of a big deal for someone as large as PlayStation, for something as key as the PlayStation 5. Essentially what was, I can only guarantee, was going to be the release date, probably a couple launch games or exclusives, and then a price as well. This was going to be their key conference, event thing. They had television advertisements that they paid for and that were running on fairly popular channels, and then they decided to pull it at the last minute. So it's ballsy.
Yeah, no, it is. And like the good part of me wants to believe that they truly did this in solidarity, but I've seen like the cynical take be like, well, of course they delayed it. You know, they want the news cycle, and right now is not the time that you're going to get attention for something like this. So, I mean, regardless of the reason behind it, I think it was ultimately the right move. So, I mean, I support it, and we can wait a couple more weeks. No big deal.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I misread it. Thankfully, we don't have followers on Twitter because I immediately retweeted it, and I said, oh, I guess we'll record on Friday then. And it kind of came off snarky because I literally hadn't read the second half of their message. I just thought like, oh, we're canceling it. I'm like, and I had no idea why. And it wasn't until like an hour later that I went and actually read it. I was like, oh no. So I immediately deleted the tweet because I literally just did not read it. I was being cynical Karch, and I was like, oh, they canceled another event, or like another event got delayed. Oh, big deal. Yeah. So thankfully, not that big a deal.
Our unpopularity saved us from a Twitter PR nightmare. I also thought we're not equipped to handle.
So I only read half of it, and I also thought the 4th was Friday. So I thought it was actually a statement saying, "Oh, we're going to move it back a single day," and that was the context of my tweet. And so, but the 4th is actually Thursday. We were going to record on Thursday so we could be, timely and everything. But that's fine.
We're super flexible here.
We are so flexible.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about this. Maybe not like right this second, but like, I wouldn't be totally opposed to moving our recording date later in the week to catch more of the news.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the less I think it's going to be a problem for me since we start so late anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter who's here. Juliet's always in bed by this time, and so.
Okay, well, then we can talk about it later. Like, it doesn't have to be. But the nice thing about that is if we recorded, like, Thursday and released everything Monday, would give me the weekend to get it together versus trying to do it during the week.
Yeah, makes sense.
But whatever, we can talk about it later.
Give us feedback, guys.
Yeah, totally. Vote on Patreon.
We'll put up a poll.
Yeah, put up a poll.
Yeah, so in addition to Sony canceling the PlayStation 5 event, IGN Summer of Gaming has been delayed, pushed back.
Their main event week or whatever has been pushed back. Do you remember
what if they said when?
I don't think they've said when, but it was originally scheduled to start on Monday, so next Monday the 8th.
Gotcha. And then also in a bizarre but equally, well-meaning gesture, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Season 4 was also delayed in a show of solidarity.
Or so they say.
Or so they say. It was probably a buggy mess, and they just, capitalized. Right. Because we're always ready to jump on Activision for anything. All right. So I'm going to bring back a segment we had at the beginning of the podcast, in the first few episodes, that is, not this one, called What Do You Wish You Were Playing? Because there was just one thing that I was itching to buy that I had completely forgotten about. And that game is called Bug Fables. It's got a longer title, but everyone just calls it Bug Fables. And basically what it is, it's an indie game that was kickstarted forever ago, I think, anyway. And it's basically Paper Mario, but with bugs, very akin to Hollow Knight. So it's very hard to not make that connection because of how popular and similar they look and kind of style.
And the bugs.
And the bugs, right, exactly, because of the bugs. But it has that kind of papery cutout thing that Paper Mario has. It's a turn-based RPG. It's got a party. It's basically like someone's like, man, I am tired of waiting for Nintendo to make the game we're all asking for, so we're going to make it. And it was reviewing very well, and it looks really good, and it's only $25. So once Origami King comes out, if it reviews poorly, like if they don't seem to have learned from whatever mistakes they've made in the past with Sticker Star and Color Splash, I might just get this instead.
I would support that. Be a tastemaker.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be like a month too late. If I wanted to be a tastemaker, I should have bought it day one. But
be a retroactive tastemaker.
Retroactive tastemaker. People do that sometimes. They dredge up a game that nobody remembers, and then it gets a huge spike in popularity. That could be me. That
could be you, man.
It could be you. So
I didn't know we were bringing this segment back, and then I did this on my lunch break, and I said, didn't know we were bringing this back. I'm going to say ... and I never filled in.
Did you think you don't have anything?
No, I mean, I really don't have anything.
Not even Half-Life Alyx?
No, and that's what I was going to say. I don't have anything that I don't already own, but I think if I had the stamina, I would say Half-Life Alyx. But like right now, I'm really trying to beat. Well, I don't want to talk about what I'm trying to beat yet until we get to the next segment. I guess we can roll into it.
Yeah. What have you been playing, Jason?
So yeah, I've been playing Batman Arkham Asylum. I've been eating those veggies. I swapped my broccoli back for the other thing you said.
Green beans.
Green beans, yeah. So I wanted the green beans back. And I'm probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours in now. I'm like, I guess 15 to 20% done with the game according to the like progress bar.
Cool. You liking it?
I'm digging it, dude. After I got more into it, I just can't. I mean, it's hard to put down. Like, I think about it all the time, and I constantly want to go back to it. And unfortunately, it's made me put Final Fantasy VII on the back burner. And I will talk about that because I did play that a little this week too. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to talk beat for beat. But what I will say is, there's a point. So you're going through the game. How far back should I go? Because I haven't really talked about this much.
No, because I think the last time you talked about it, you had only been like maybe an hour in.
Right.
So as much as you want, and then I've got a couple questions for you. So
okay. So basically, in terms of, I will talk super high level. You go and you save some doctors in the asylum. So basically, the premise of the game is you're bringing Joker back to the Arkham Asylum, and he gets a bunch of people to also like be conveniently captured with him, and then they kind of overrun the asylum and they take over like the whole campus, and he sets all these traps for you, and he's got his plan and blah 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 blah, just the typical Batman thing. So I don't think that's saying too much, and plus this game's pretty old. But then so I'm kind of tracking down the Joker, but he's put a bunch of like, I won't call them civilians, I guess, at risk. And so I'm kind of going and I'm saving the doctors. And then one of the doctors is like, my life's research is in this other building. You have to go get it. Otherwise the doctor or the Joker could do some bad stuff with it. And then I have to go track down that research. And that's the point at which the Joker has obviously laid more traps. And so like, I will say there are a couple of sections that really caught my eye that were kind of like outside of the normal Arkham thing. Cause I love what I love about Batman is I love the gadgets. I love the stealth. I love the like sweeping down in on somebody and knocking him out and nobody else sees, and then, you know, grappling back up to the gargoyles. And, I just love that so much. And I love the gadgets that they give you so you can like lay traps and all this other kind of fun stuff that they give you. But specifically the Scarecrow trippy section.
yes, good. I'm glad you got to there so we can talk about that.
It was so cool, man. They did such a great job of making me feel like I was just going down this rabbit hole. So there's a point in the game where you are in this like medical, gosh, I'm trying to remember exactly how it happens. You're in this medical facility area that's kind of like contained, and then somehow you get gassed with Scarecrow gas and you start like hallucinating, but everything looks normal. But then as you kind of pull on that thread, like you unzip a body bag and it's like your dad and he's talking to you and stuff. So it's kind of cool what like the way they did that and the way they kind of make you feel like you're in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, it's a really brief segment, and they might, I think you go through it like 2 or 3 times total. Maybe.
Oh, really?
It might be a one-off. I can't remember.
I've only done it once.
Yeah, but it's so much fun. It's really memorable, and even, you know, at the time it was like a thing. It was like, whoa, it was like that water cooler moment kind of. Have you fought any bosses yet?
Yes.
Who'd you fight?
Oh, I fought Bane.
You fought Bane. Okay, I don't remember that one very well. That's not the one I was hoping you were talking about.
Well, then I don't want to know who I should.
No,
be.
I'm not gonna, because I won't spoil it for you, because it's a really good one. It's really good. How do you feel about the detective vision? Because this was a time where this hadn't been a thing much yet. Do you think, so there's games like Horizon, very early on, Aloy gets a little device in her ear that essentially gives her this ability to see through and, you know, the stats of things, and etc., through walls and through grass. In The Last of Us, if you've ever played that, there's the ability to hear, which is basically just, again, a way to like see people and clickers and, you know, which are the zombie things in that game through walls. So how do you feel about the way they implemented that and how it fits into the Batman, you know, universe? And
I've always really enjoyed that detective mode, but again, I think that's just because of what it added to the stealth sections.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, this is probably one of the first games that I had ever played with it, because I played Arkham City not too long after it launched. So I had never played Asylum, but I have beaten the city. Mm-hmm. And so prior to that, I don't really, I mean, there probably were games that did implement it, but none that I had played. So, yeah. I mean, like I said, I like what it adds to the stealth section. I guess my one gripe about it is that I feel like I have to use it too much when I'm in combat.
That is the common complaint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, in combat? Really?
Well, what do you, so you're talking about like detective mode specifically?
Specifically, yeah.
Because I use it to see where all the people are if I'm up on a gargoyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So maybe not in combat, but like if I'm trying to not be discovered.
Correct.
But, you know, part of me wonders if it was like one of those things where, I mean, it wouldn't really make sense, but it's such it was kind of an older game. What is it, 2007, 2009?
8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah, 2009. So I wonder if that allowed them to circumvent, like, having to render texture. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
I'm not sure either, but I appreciate you for trying.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, there's less detail when you're in detective mode.
Yeah, but it's also something you turn on
right
after you're already in a place, so...
Yeah. So it doesn't really help them.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
How do you feel about the difficulty?
It's pretty easy. I think I've only died twice, but despite that, it was the same in Arkham City, and I'm still really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a game that demands... as a player, I don't demand my Batman game be hard.
Right.
You know? There's lots of puzzles, you know, most of them optional. A few are necessary, and I don't have any specific memories, but I do remember getting stuck on a couple. You get lost once or twice, and then there are some enemies, especially towards the end, because it has a habit of the combat difficulty doesn't scale well. You know, but especially by the end when you have all your gadgets and all, like, you know, as many upgrades as you're going to have by that point without, you know, going back and getting them all. The game's like, how do we challenge them? And instead of being clever about it, they get cheap about it. And there are just a few like, this is anti-fun. I'm so glad I'm at the end and not like in the middle where I would have hated having to deal with this kind of enemy the rest of the game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll probably just like YouTube, how do you beat this? And
yes, please do.
Go through it.
YouTube, how to eat the broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
Butt end first.
So... what about you, Karch?
I played more Last of Us. Played a lot the other day. Let's see what happened. We watched something on television, I think. And then I played a bunch after she went to sleep. And what was it? I was playing...
Was it the one with Jason Bateman?
No. Yes, we watched Ozark. I was trying to think of where I started in the game. Okay.
Oh.
So... I'm still in fall, and then I meet a character from Joel's past. We'll say that much because Jason doesn't want me to be very spoilery, so I won't be super spoilery with The Last of Us, the almost 10-year-old game, only because The Last of Us 2 is coming out. But from what I don't know
what people want, man.
From what I can tell, this game doesn't seem necessary to play the second one in almost any regard. Like from the little I have seen, I've only seen one trailer. Not the one that, because we didn't watch the State of Play that came out last week, like late last week. But I did watch the previous trailer before that, and the game just doesn't. It just doesn't seem like it needs the first game. Like I mean, you'll feel more invested in Ellie and Joel and the relationship that they built. And so whatever happens, I guess, will have a greater impact, whether their bond is tested or they actually like, basically break up. Not that they're romantically involved. But anyway, I'm finding the game to be both compelling and kind of dull at the same time, if that makes any sense. Like, I kind of couldn't put it down, but at the same time, I wasn't like enthralled. So
yeah, I think I remember having similar feelings kind of in that section as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I recall, in the winter, it picks up a little bit more.
See, and this is where I felt this the most. So I was playing through fall, and fall ends kind of with a big deal. It's kind of a cliffhanger, so to speak. So if you were watching like a week to week, you'd be like, what? I got to watch right now. Like if you're binging in on Netflix, or, you'd be like toe tapping, waiting for that next episode to come out, but it's Christmas break and they're not going to show it and that kind of thing. But I can play a video game immediately if I want to. And so winter starts, and I played through all of winter in a single sitting.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the first time I played through any one like quote unquote chapter in the game without taking a break. And so I got the full picture, and I gotta say, I felt like it was a waste of time. Like I would tell you, I could point to every point. I could point to the point, quote unquote, of every single scene and chapter so far. I could not tell you what the point of this was. I couldn't tell you why. Like, so there's like this one-off villain, so to speak, that, you kind of meet, fight, and then leave, which is very similar. Like, they're all like, all these chapters are kind of like, and now there's this story, and now there's this story, and that works really well. It just didn't here. I don't know why. I didn't like that villain. I didn't understand the point of him and what he was supposed to bring out of the characters. Doesn't even interact with one of them. Really only interacts with Ellie. So yeah, I did not like winter very much. I loved playing in the snow. That was fun.
Yeah.
Because I'm a sucker for snow stuff. Being a Floridian, snow has an enormous mystic quality to me, where I'm like, ooh, it's magical. It's magical.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And I'd like to talk about that maybe afterward, and we can go into details with names and details and details,
Okay.
and details and details.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, we can do a Last of Us spoiler cast. The only thing is, I have played this game, but it's been so long that I think having you I'm kind of like looking at your notes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'm like, oh man, there is so much of this game that I've kind of forgotten because I've blurred that together with the end.
Right.
So yeah.
Which I think I'm near. I hope I'm near, because my last point is that this game is too long if it goes too much longer. Like, if I have another 5 hours to go, I'm going to be really upset, because this game does not have 5 hours more worth of like story to tell.
I don't remember it being that long. I remember I thought it was like about 20 to 25.
That's a really long game, dude, for something that is essentially an Uncharted game, This is an Uncharted game.
Dude,
it doesn't
do you
have
know how long Uncharted 4 was? Okay, it says 15 and a half hours.
All right, that sounds more reasonable. I didn't think you were right when you said that, by the way. But Uncharted 4 was very long, and I felt that too. Overall, I enjoyed the length, but there were a couple segments where I'm like, man, this is okay. That's fine. But the first 3 are not that long.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's I got a little tired at the end of Uncharted 4.
Right.
Which it says 15 hours for that one too. I don't believe that.
Yeah, dude, it might be. Okay, so I'm going to say something really, go on a tangent. There's something funny that happens between 10 and 20 hours that feels way longer than it actually is, or way shorter. It just depends on the game and the person. But like, sometimes I'll be playing a game for like 11 hours. Like, man, I can't believe it. And it also depends on how long, like, from start to finish it took me, like, on the calendar. Like, if I don't finish it for quote unquote a month, obviously I didn't play it for that many hours, but it feels longer. And so I might think an 11-hour game was a lot longer than it was. But sometimes I'll play 40 hours in a game and I'll be like, how did I put 40 hours into this already?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I'm never going to understand this game the way people loved it at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I honestly don't know if I would have liked it then either, as much as everyone else does. I remember the trailer, and I remember being all on board for this game, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. That looks really cool. And they're pushing video games to a totally new level. Obviously, I've seen that level and then some at this point. I want I never played the Uncharted games either until well after the fact. So I played the first 3 Uncharted games, first all 4 of them, before I played The Last of Us. So I still kind of had a more natural like progression, with the exception being I played Uncharted 4 before The Last of Us. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the extreme level. Like, I'll listen to podcast people and other industry people, and I'll listen to them talk about this game in a way that they would never talk about another game that's very similar to it. Like, and it's fine if this is the better version of those games, but like, they're not talking about any game like this in any way similar to it. You know, like, they are putting this game and already The Last of Us 2 on such a high pedestal. And I'm like, all right, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know that this is your type of game, really.
It probably isn't. That's probably all it is.
But I mean, it's in retrospect, I kind of see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I do wonder how much of this is like nostalgia goggles for the impact that it had at the time, because I'd have to go back and kind of deep dive and see like who else was telling stories like this at that time on that level, and like making these kind of narrative driven experiences. I mean, I guess you could maybe make a case. Didn't Grand Theft Auto 5 come out around the same time? But it's a little bit different game.
People loved 4 too, especially because of its single player and the story.
Right. But I don't know. I just think it was such a cinematic game, and also like zombies were super in at the time, so It kind of hit that right on perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a really good game.
I think God of War ruined, in many ways, video games for me in general, but I think this game too, because it's a reductive comparison. Like, oh, especially when God of War came out, people were like, oh, it's The Last of Us in Viking Land or whatever. And in a very basic way, it is. You have a parent-child relationship. Ellie is not literally Joel's child, but it doesn't matter. You know, the relationship is the same. You have an adult, you have a child, you have a guardian, you have someone that needs to be guarded, and you have the way that they connect and grow and fight, etc. And not only is the gameplay so much more up my alley in that game, I just think it's a better story. Like, I just think it's a better story. And so it's hard to go backwards from that. So,
right. You know, what's interesting is like, I think I agree with you that that a lot of the elements Santa Monica does better on God of War than Naughty Dog did in The Last of Us. Obviously, they were, I think, in some ways inspired by what Naughty Dog did. Yeah, maybe. But then they did it at a whole different level. But I still like the story of The Last of Us more.
Yeah, and I will 100% admit that just simply comes down to preference, and that's fine.
Yeah, and the thing is that's not a story we haven't heard before. So that's the one thing, is it's a little trite. It's a little derivative of that genre.
What else do you do? The Last of Us?
Yeah, The Last of Us.
Gotcha.
Like, what else do you do? So I would say maybe God of War one's a little more unique, and it's really hard for me to speak on it having not beat the God of War, but gosh, I have to be like 80% through. And
you're probably even further, man.
Yeah, and the thing is like, I just don't feel as, I like the bond between Kratos and what's his name? Atreus. Like, I like that bond a lot, but at the same time, like, I couldn't even tell you what the storyline is. Like,
that's because of the way you played it. Greg spoiled that, not in the I know the ending now kind of way, but he ruined that game for you. You'd have to play.
I sat there and watched the whole game unfold. We didn't go through it. Like, you don't.
Yeah, I guess.
It's not like an open world game where you could possibly miss stuff if you didn't go do the side quests. Like, the story is the story.
That's true.
And I just like, I'm gonna like high level, really basic. Kratos is kind of in this other dimension. And again, I'm not trying to spoil it because I honestly don't even know. But it seems like Kratos is in this other kind of dimension, and then like the bad guys from the other dimension are kind of chasing him into this one. And
the heck are you talking about, man?
That is what I got out of the story.
You were sleep deprived or something. That is can't get into this right now.
Now you're gonna make me look stupid. But okay, so you're telling me there weren't like these callbacks to Kratos' former life?
His former life is literally just the years prior to the current story, though.
I see. I thought they were alluding to something bigger because that's what I didn't finish the game. There
are a lot of theories out there about maybe there are future time shenanigans that might make them. We'll see, because the way that the Nordic mythos with the world tree and time and space are a big, because we're traveling between the realms and stuff.
Right.
Like there is a potential kind of like time space crazy thing that could come up later. But it's all very theoretical.
We'll see.
And does spoil a lot. But you're saying you're like, you gotta be.
Wait.
No, I'm not going to spoil.
Okay, no, let me tell you what I think before you tell me the right answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Because what I thought was that they were doing all this, like I honestly thought they were alluding to this, that Kratos had kind of escaped his like past life in this other thing where he had to be this like killer who just goes and kills everything. And he like escaped to this other, I don't know what, and like made a life for himself. And then like kind of the shadows of his past were following him in here because they knew who he really was.
Those are all metaphorical.
Okay, because that's what I thought.
Do you know what happens at the end of God of War 3?
No, see, and that's the thing. I haven't played any other games either. Don't you kill Zeus or something?
I'm going to spoil God of War 3 for everybody.
Okay.
The entire game is him finishing off the entire pantheon with Zeus at the end.
Okay, so I played that game,
Athena. He kills Athena either at the end of 2 or pretty early on in 3.
Yeah,
because there's time shenanigans in there too. Like the fates get involved.
That's kind of what led me to that conclusion of like you killed everything and you moved on with your life.
Yeah, but
even though it's not
literal.
A direct sequel.
Right. No, it's many years later, but he's still whatever constitutes quote unquote the god of war. I don't think he's lost any power. He's but he's trying to live his regular dude life. And he meets a woman.
So are they in the same timeline or not?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no hint that they're in some sort of alternate timeline right now.
Well, the only reason I said that's because they switched from like Greek mythology to Nordic mythology.
Right, and you do have to not hand wave it, but you do have to just take it with a grain of salt. That's a bit of a stylistic choice. They're going to try to do a thing here. They might even introduce other mythologies later, depending on how ambitious the entire story is, and how quickly they can start getting games out. But no, it's just the gods, as powerful as they are, still seem constrained to a lot of, physical laws. They're just simply, they're immortal to at least in some degree, and they're very strong and they have powers and magic, etc. But, they've introduced the concept that, yes, the Greek gods are over there in Greece and the Nordic gods are over here in the Nordic lands.
And this is where my disconnect was.
Yeah. And they hint at it's very obvious that they're hinting at the Egyptian pantheon and another one. I can't remember the which one it is, but there's another mythological pantheon from probably maybe a Far East thing. I can't recall though, but they definitely show like an Ankh or some one of those Egyptian eye things that very obviously indicate Egypt exists, and the gods that we know from Anubis and Ra and all that, those are characters that probably exist in this world too, even if we never see them.
Okay, well that's super interesting. I mean, I do need to go back and just restart it and play the whole thing at some point.
You do. The ending won't make sense, or if it makes sense, it won't be impactful, because it's not like there is no mind-blowing ending. There's no twist or whoa, what? It's just a very satisfying conclusion that also leads into, but there's more.
Yeah.
So
okay. All right, so that was The Last of Us. What else have you been playing?
I bought Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
This is my May. Technically, it's my May JRPG.
Well, you were one ahead anyway.
Sort of. I was
one. Were you on track? Are you counting now?
What? All right, let's go back. January was Ni no Kuni. I was one ahead. That's what it was.
Okay,
sort
that's
of.
what I thought.
I was one-ish behind. Like I didn't finish Final Fantasy, which was my April one, because it came out the very end of April. No, beginning, middle, sometime.
You didn't finish Fire Emblem.
I did finish Fire Emblem.
No, I mean you didn't at the point when Final Fantasy came out.
Correct. I was behind then. I got caught up though. So I finished Fire Emblem. I finished Final Fantasy. I was going to make Xenoblades my fifth one, but it didn't come out till this past Friday, which was like the 29th.
Right.
So obviously I was not finishing a 100-hour game in 3 days.
Weak.
I know. Weak sauce. I'm a fake gamer.
You're a fake gamer.
Quick little history. Xenoblade Chronicles is a game that came out for the Wii, of all things, very late in the Wii's life cycle. And it was originally only going to come out in Japan and then like the PAL countries. So like, Europe and Germany and France and all that. European countries, I guess. And for some reason, they just weren't going to localize it for America. And there were a lot of people who just got really crazy, like frothy mad about that. And they started a petition. They called it Operation something. Like it had a name.
Wow.
And guess what, man? It worked. It worked. They actually twisted Nintendo's arm, of all people.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, they just took the UK English version, tweaked it probably slightly, and then that's what they ended up shipping, because all the voices are in British, voice actors and stuff.
Which is fine. We're used to that here.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds really cool. Some of them are really cheesy, over the top kind of Cockney accents, but it's also supposed to they're for the characters who might be a little bit more brusque and less refined.
Oi, governor.
Oi, governor, exactly. Australian. That's not the same thing. Anyway.
That's Australian?
No, never mind. It's a kind of funny thing. He says, oi, governor, even when they're talking about Australians.
Right. He says it for anyone who's not US.
Basically. So anyway, this game eventually makes its way to America, but it's GameStop exclusive. For some reason, that's the deal that Nintendo of America struck to bring it over, because they were worried they wouldn't get their money back or something like that. And then GameStop was opening their games or something. This is all hearsay. I don't know if this is true, but they were opening the games and selling them used for $90 because of how rare they were, at least at some GameStops. That's what people say. So it's, even though it had made its way to the US shores, it didn't get played a lot. Then it came out for the new 3DS, which was a slightly upgraded version of the 3DS that would play.
Was it exclusive to the new 3DS?
Yes, it would not run.
That's crap.
They were trying to run a Wii game on the 3DS, and I heard it played awful. And it was an even worse version of a fairly ugly, poor performing game.
Hold on, Monster Hunter 3 came out on the 3DS. And
you know what? That's true. And that game's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
And the thing is, I don't think you had to have the new one because it came out. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Get out of here with your Xenoblade, whatever. They're just trying to sell more of the thingies.
It was a mistake either way.
Yeah.
Still, somehow, had a cult following. It eventually got a sequel, came to the Switch, did very successful for the kind of game it is. I hated it. Way too anime, in the worst kinds of ways. I thought the combat was too slow. I thought the world was too big. It was too much. It was just a really over-the-top game, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I hacked my Wii back in the day to play the international version of this game, Xenoblade Chronicles, and after trying and successfully for so long to make that happen, after an hour in, I just quit it because I'm the worst or something. I don't even remember why.
Wow.
So here it is on the Switch, Definitive Edition. There's a few quality of life changes. I don't know what they are because I never played the original, but people seem to be happy about them. The biggest difference, obviously, is that they upgraded the visuals to stop looking like an ugly PS2 game, and now it looks like a really good-looking PS2 game.
That's an improvement.
Exactly, because this game came out on the Wii, which is just an up-jumped GameCube,
Yeah.
And so it never had a chance, to look that good in the first place. It's a lot of fun. I'm about 7 hours in. It's turn-based combat, sort of, but not really. It's more like an action-y thing, very similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake, except instead of choosing when to attack, your characters will auto-attack, their basic attacks, and then you choose the abilities when they're off cooldown. So it feels very MMO-y in that way. Very much World of Warcraft. It's almost identical to World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14 in the way that, again, your characters will just automatically attack. and then you have better attacks that have different effects on cooldown. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so before you get too far into this, what drew you back to it that made you think you were gonna like it this time, even though you only got like an hour in last?
I didn't dislike it. I honestly, I cannot tell you why I stopped playing it, because I wanted to play this game so bad. It looked amazing, and nobody had a bad thing to say about it. You know, like the percentage of 1-star reviews on this would have been, you know, negligible. Like this was the JRPG to play at the time. And I don't know why I didn't play it after I went through all the trouble of getting it to work on my Wii. So I was already in, so to speak. And the fact that it looked better and I could play it on my Switch was a no-brainer.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, the combat is very engaging. Like it requires your constant, you're playing Final Fantasy VII Original, and through most of the fights, especially as you get more materia and stuff and you start leveling up, you can just go on auto attack for most, random encounters, and you'll beat them in 2 or 3 turns.
Is there literally an auto attack, or you're saying just mash?
No, just mash attack. Yeah.
Okay. A little aside here. Mm-hmm. I haven't decided if I'm going to post my most recent Final Fantasy VII gameplay or not, because I was nodding off like the whole time. I mean, because I started it. So last week was my birthday, so we did the podcast, and then after that, I spent about 3.5 hours online with Greg trying to get some stuff together for a show we're trying to do for the channel. And then at 3:30 a.m., I was like, now is the time to play some Final Fantasy VII. Now is not the time. I'm too old for that stuff now. You
should do a really small cut edited version, maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like see what you can put together. That'd be really funny though.
Okay, I'll do it, because I only have 42 minutes of footage. I can probably legit knock it down to 5 minutes and then just like be like, here's 5 minutes of Jason being old.
I like it.
Okay, anyway, sorry, keep going.
All right, so yeah, the combat is very MMO-like, but at the same time, it's very engaging. I will say I've been spoiled by games like Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I think I have 2 other party members, so a total party of 3. I would assume that that's going to be the max I have, because that's just usually how it goes. But you cannot control your teammates. You have to rely on their AI, but every character has a very specific role. So the main character, Shulk, is your damage dealer. He has a very special weapon, and he has some very special skills that kind of need to go off. Otherwise, certain things just don't happen, and you'll lose even really easy fights. But your other character's your tank, and if he doesn't draw the aggro off of you, Shulk gets his face kicked in. And for the most part, it works, but sometimes it doesn't. Like maybe his skills are on cooldown. You have no insight into what's going on. You just kind of have to hope that they're doing their job. Same thing with the healer, who you get. I just got recently, and up until then, it was very like, if I had to like blow all my skills right away and make sure I wasn't fighting too many enemies at once, otherwise I would just die. So the difficulty is just because of all of that, the difficulty is kind of like spiky. Like you'll just be walking around and enemies are on the map. There's no random encounters. Some enemies will like just run right at you, and some won't attack you until you attack them. So there's a lot of choice in that regard. Running away is pretty easy too, for the most part. It's just kind of you literally have to run away though. So it's kind of dumb in that respect. Where in JRPGs, you just, if I want to run away, I click run, and then I'm out of the battle, and I don't have to worry about like going back to where I was and running around the enemy.
So wait, so is there like literally like you're walking around in the environment, then there's like a thing, and then if you run into it, it triggers like that?
Yeah, it'll have like an aggro radius essentially, like depending how close you get to it, it'll start charging you and attack you and engage combat. You enter the combat.
And when you engage combat, does it do the like kind of typical JRPG thing where it like jumps into this thing where they're on one side of them? Okay, so it's live.
Yeah, exactly. And positioning is important. You move around in the middle of combat again. They'll swing their swords and shoot their guns automatically as long as they're within range. But like Shulk has a lot of the main character has a lot of abilities that specifically need you on the side of the enemy or behind the enemy to do either the extra damage or to apply the status effect. So that's why, again, it's really important that the aggro occurs, that they draw the threat away from the enemy, because if they're targeting you, they will always face you. Like you cannot run behind an enemy that is trying to attack you, because it'll just automatically face you regardless of where you position yourself.
What is aggro?
Aggro is aggression. It's just it's a phrase used in games where it makes sense to use, mostly MMOs. It's a holdover from those. So like
my light just died. Sorry.
Oh, Dark Jason.
Oh man, that's
Darkest
such a bummer.
timeline.
Sorry, Greg. Okay, so aggro is aggression.
Aggro is aggression. So yeah, that's combat. So I die a lot, but it doesn't matter. Death is not like a penalty in this game. There's no such thing as a game over, it looks like. Although I haven't died in like a story battle, like, you know, like there's a big boss. I haven't died in one of those yet. I don't think anyway. But when you die, you just go back to one of the many check marks on the, or landmarks on the map. It's a very generous fast travel system. So while it's a very big world, I can't believe they made a world this big on a Wii game. Bouncing around from place to place is very easy as long as you've been there at least once. There are way too many side quests, like literally 20 something in the first area alone. And it's all just dumb stuff like kill this thing, pick this stuff up.
Find my cats.
The one good thing is outside of a very few number, once like, so it's like go kill 5 cows. The 5th cow that I kill, boom, quest complete. I don't have to run back to town or even teleport back to town.
Ooh,
I get
nice.
my money or my reward or whatever, and it's done. So the strategy is simple. Go to town, pick up every quest you can, and then just go out and do the game. And then you'll hit like 75% of them. And the extra 25%, if you want to go out of your way for them, you will. But like they offer nothing to the game. Like money, sure. Gear, sometimes, yeah. But like, why have so many? Just make a few less. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's old game design. Like games just don't, like even games that still kind of do this don't do it to this degree. And again, because I can pick them up so easily and complete them just kind of playing the main story, it's not that big a deal, but it still just kind of irks me that they're there in the first place.
I'm with you. I get that.
Yeah. Story's really good so far. So on the surface, this game looks very anime, and it is, but the good kind of anime, if that makes sense. I know you don't watch a lot, but there is good anime. Anime is not just a dirty word. There's a lot of really quality, artistic stuff out there, and you get a very strong Neon Evangelion vibe from this, and although not quite as mature, not quite as serious. But like characters are dying. Named characters are dying very early on. I won't say who, but it's not super spoilery because again, like this is stuff that might get spoiled in a trailer. But basically, you're living on these giant dead beasts called Titans. One is Bionis and one is Mechonis. The human people live on Bionis, which is all green and stuff. And then the mechanical Mechons live on Mechonis, which is not green and stuff. And the robot people keep raiding the humans and trying to eat them. Like they literally eat them to stay alive or whatever. You don't know their deal yet, so who knows? And then the humans are pretty much living in like, refugee camps for the most part. There's a couple cities, but they're not very large. And then so there's this magic sword called the Monado. And then very early on, your character gets control of the Monado, and it turns out he's particularly good at using it. And it's the one thing that's really good at killing these mechanical beings. And that's pretty much where I'm at right now. So
sweet. 7 hours.
7 hours into supposedly a potentially 100-hour game. I'm sure I'll complete it somewhere closer to 60. All things considered, but
I just can't, man.
Yeah,
you're sitting there telling me that the 15 hours of The Last of Us is starting to become draining, and you
that's
spent
because you would
7
never
hours finding people's cats, and you're like, this is great.
I'm not finding. First of all, I'm not looking for anybody's cats, all right? Unless they're Wedge's cats. Second of all, a 15-hour movie compared to a 80-hour TV show is not the same thing, and that's what a JRPG is. It's more like a TV show than a movie, and The Last of Us is a movie. And
that's
15
so
hours.
Interesting because in film media, we'll say I am the one who prefers TV shows and you prefer movies, but in the game sphere, it's kind of opposite.
That is funny. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I'm very early on, but I'm enjoying it, and I'll do my very best not to let it hit the back burner. It's better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Anybody who says otherwise is wrong. Anybody who likes that game is dumb. There, I said it.
Boom. Shots fired. So, okay, so you have basically 2.5 weeks until The Last of Us 2 comes out. Are you going to try to play that one at launch, or
at launch? I won't feel compelled to.
Okay.
Especially since you're going to want to play it and I'll be sharing. Can we play it at the same time on PS?
I don't know. I've heard both. I don't know.
I know you can't on the Switch. It won't let you.
I would imagine you cannot, but I would also imagine that I'll be playing later than you. So
maybe not on a PS4 though. I play my PS4 pretty late in the day. So anyway, I'm in no rush.
Okay.
So, but I would like to be, fairly in step with where you are, so we can talk about it together, and go back and forth on what we liked about this, and get our opinions on similar things at similar times.
As long as we both finish it by the time we do our spoiler cast.
Well, obviously,
we'll be in good shape.
We won't have a spoiler cast if we haven't both finished it.
Well, that's what we thought about Final Fantasy, but I guess I was never going to play that game.
So. You were never going to play that game.
That's true.
All right. So we played one more game, and we played this game together.
Yeah,
Why don't you lead us off, Jason?
Astroneer. Astroneer. So, Astroneer is, the simplest way I can explain it is a slightly different take on like a Minecraft sort of game. And essentially, and it's got elements of all of those types of games where you're accumulating these different types of resources to build machines, to combine resources in different ways, to build other gadgets, to progress your little whatever you want to call it. In this case, it's a space camp. So Astroneer, you're an astronaut. You appear on this planet. You're kind of tethered to your vessel, your space vessel, because you need oxygen. So if you go too far away from your space vessel, you'll start to lose oxygen and you'll die.
Very quickly, too.
Yeah, pretty quickly, exactly. You have like maybe 10 seconds of oxygen off the tether. And then once you reattach it, it will regenerate. But essentially what's one of the things you learn very early on is your little space camp comes with like what they call an oxygenator, and you can tether from that, and it takes certain resources to build those tethers, and you can build yourself this network of tethers to where you can kind of run along almost like highways and go explore out in the world. And once you can do that, I had never understood the appeal of these games, and I had always thought they were dumb, but I had never played one with friends. And Karch and I talked about this earlier today of like, to me, this game had similar elements. I'm not saying it's the same, but similar elements to Stardew Valley, where it is very open-ended of like, do whatever you want to do, and you're just trying to make yourself better. And you kind of, I know there are like objectives in Stardew, so I'm not trying to like discount it. I'm just saying it's very, very open-ended, very, very low pressure. Nothing's going to die. No one's going to die. There are no enemies, really.
And even if you do die, you just go back. You lose some of it. Like, if you gathered some materials, you drop them at that point, and then you can go back and get them if you want. And you just go back to your main, your little ship thing. So
yeah. And so that's my point. It's like a very low pressure, kind of like go with the flow, just like chill, do your own thing sort of game. And like, I guess I'm just not self-motivated enough to be able to get into a single player version of that. But I found myself here, I'm just like, man, I'm loving this of like, hey, I see a blue light over there. That's really far away, but let's do it as a team and like make these tethers and go out there together and just see what it is. And not only that, but you can also kind of like suck up resources, and you can suck up pretty much anything in the environment. Yeah. And you can just point your little gun at the ground and suck up the ground and go into the core of the planet, and you're in like a cavern. It's wild, man. It's wild.
Yeah. And there's the promise of, so you described it as kind of Minecraft-like, and obviously it is. And then the game I'm about to talk to was inspired by Minecraft as well. But if you've ever played Subnautica, which is a game that takes place underwater on a foreign, like non-Earth planet, it's very much like Subnautica, but Subnautica is stressful. Subnautica is way more bent on the survival aspect, and there are things that will try to kill you, and you have to eat and drink and all that stuff. This does not have any of that. The only thing you got to do is make sure you've got oxygen, which is very easy to do. It's not hard. You can buy, like Jason mentioned, the tethers. You can also easily craft oxygen filters, which are like portable oxygen packs. The only problem is that those do take up space on your backpack, which is limited, but they last a while. So if for some reason you find yourself like disconnected, or you're going to just go on a little jaunt in one way, and you don't want to plant a bunch of tethers that end up going somewhere you don't really want to explore at a later date, you can go ahead and build those for yourself. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff, just generators and solar power and wind power to make things run, because things don't run if you don't have power. And you can make materials out of dirt, and then you can find those same materials in a cave. And the blue light that Jason mentioned actually led to a really, rewarding thing, and we were like super stoked about it.
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. And how would you compare this? Because another game that kind of comes to mind that I think you've played is No Man's Sky. How would you compare this to like No Man's Sky?
I played that very briefly at launch, and so I can't really speak to what that game's turned into. It's similar to No Man's Sky, but also not really. They take place in space, and you collect materials to build things. But the things you build in No Man's Sky are, for the most part, like stuff to get you to other planets.
Isn't that what we're trying to do too?
Maybe. I don't really know, and I don't want to know.
Sean said he's going to send one of us to another planet.
That's going to be cool, but we'll see. Like, I saw a quick, I got on Twitter, and, I looked at I followed the developer or the game's Twitter, whatever. Saw a quick, little GIF trailer pop up, and they had jetpacks at one point. They were hopping around with jetpacks, so I'm excited to get some of those. But
yeah, and you can build other vehicles as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we had a little tractor rover thing at one point.
A solar powered.
Yep. It was a lot of fun.
So I would say if you're into those kind of like atmospheric vibe games that you just kind of like explore and be creative and not really have an objective, and especially if you wanted to play with friends, I would recommend this. Yeah,
and we did this with Robert and Sean especially is the perfect kind of person to play this with, because he's an engineer, he's A-brained, and he's goal-oriented, and it was just so easy for him to just kind of be like, okay, this is what we're doing, and either we were helping him, or we were just staying out of his way after the initial debacle. Or we were digging him into a hole. So there was some technical difficulties of me getting in, and then the jury's still out, but the second that I got in, something happened to the oxygenator. I don't know how it happened. I don't know who did it. It was me or Jason. Maybe Robert. Anyway, it got stuck in a cave way down in a big old cavern that it was about like 15, 20 minutes before we got that sucker back up on the surface.
But it was fun at the same time. It was
fun. Sean was so frustrated, but like in the best kind of way. He wasn't like actually mad, but he was just like, I can't believe these are my best friends. These idiots are ruining it.
So stupid.
Because, he had a plan. He was ready to go. He wanted to hit the ground running. And then someone comes in and throws his oxygen supply into a hole.
And the thing is we were not equipped to go more than 10 feet away from the base to get it. And he was the only one with enough materials to make oxygen tanks. Mm-hmm. And those only last for 30 seconds.
Yeah, not long.
And it was really far down there, and we didn't even know exactly where it was.
That was the other problem. And the controls, I will say the controls on a controller, and even I played around a little with the keyboard during the session too. They were just some of the least intuitive controls I've ever had.
A little clunky.
Yeah, a little clunky. Like picking stuff up is tied to the same button. Like literally picking up like a box, for instance, is tied to the same button that your little vacuum gun sucks stuff up, but that depends on whether you've actually equipped the vacuum gun at that time. And so you're sucking something up when you meant to pick something up, or you're picking something up that you definitely didn't mean to, like an oxygenator.
Right.
So, but once you get over that hump, and it is a smidge better with mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
The multiplayer up to 4 people. So if you don't want to play alone, like I would never play this game by myself.
Oh, no.
I just don't have the time or the patience for it.
No.
But I'll definitely play with friends, and we'll jump into the great unknown together.
And one other thing to mention is that I think this is a $30 game on Steam. I don't know that I'd recommend it for $30, but I spent $1 on a month of Game Pass.
Oh, that's right.
For that, it's definitely worth it. So,
yeah, that's where we played it.
There.
Game Pass. Sean on his Xbox, right? Or did he play it on his Surface? Yeah, okay. The Xbox, and then the rest of us played it on PC.
Now, it only supports cross-platform multiplayer between Game Pass PC and Xbox One. So, like, for instance, if one of us owned it on Steam, we would not be able to play with Sean.
Right. And I think I'm not sure. I'd have to research this, but I think that's a guarantee with Game Pass stuff. Like if it's on console and PC, as long as you both are using it via Game Pass, it'll let you play together.
Right. They're part of their like Game Anywhere sort of initiative.
Gotcha. Which makes sense because that whole like to really make that work, especially going forward in the future when they want to stream stuff to phones and everything else, that doesn't work unless you do something like this from the get-go.
Right.
So that was a lot of fun. Definitely going to play it maybe in a couple weeks, maybe sooner if we can get to it.
Yeah.
And go Astroneer. All right. So that's what we played. I had a lot of fun this week.
Me too.
Yeah. All right, Jason, you ate your vegetables, so we'll skip that segment. You talked about Batman this time because apparently we asked Jason just to eat one vegetable and he's eating two.
Double fist and veggies.
Double fist and veggies. Jason, do you have a rant this week?
I do have a rant this week. So this kind of ties into a lot of different things we've been talking about, but one thing Karch mentioned earlier is that we did not watch the newest state of play for The Last of Us 2. And the reason I didn't watch it purposely, even though I do this podcast and I want to be as informed as possible, is because I don't want to know anything else about it. It comes out in 2 weeks. What are you going to tell me that's going to hype me up for it any more than I already am? I feel like I can either only be let down or spoiled. Those are like the only two things that can come out of it, because right now I know next to nothing about The Last of Us Part 2 other than the initial trailer, like whatever it was 4 years ago. And that was enough. Like I'm hooked. I'm in. So I guess what I don't understand is why people want events like this. Why do people want state of plays? Why do people want Nintendo Directs? Why do people get upset if a game is announced without an hour long session on the gameplay and every little detail about it and what the storyline's going to be like? I get that games are expensive and you kind of want to know what you're buying, but at the same time, there's other ways to accomplish that. There's YouTube videos, there's review sites. You can do some of this without having to know everything about a game. I guess I just don't understand that mentality. Do you have any insight into this?
I don't have any insight. I will say there's a few things at play here. So a state of play is not an Nintendo Direct, which is not an Inside Xbox. They're all very different kinds of...
I know, but they will disseminate some similar information.
Sure, right. There are similarities between them all. So, especially the last two state of plays, you don't see that a lot with Inside Xbox almost ever, and then you rarely see it with Nintendo Direct. So every now and then, the Nintendo Direct will do a Smash Direct or a Pokemon Direct.
Right.
And those are usually just for updates and DLC. Or it's more fitting for a game like Pokemon or Smash, which have just like lots of tiny components. Like, hey, okay, let's talk about multiplayer. Let's talk about making curry for your Pokemon. Let's talk about the new levels and how music works in Smash. So it lends itself better to that. And maybe you don't want that because either A, you don't care about those extras, or you're willing to figure them out. But lots of people do. They want to know, they want to hit the ground running. You know, they want to know what kind of tools they'll have available and kind of plan out how they're going to play this game over the next couple months, because they're going to devote so much of their time to it. You do not play video games like that. You are, especially in the last couple of years, you have developed the ability to just drop a game like that. You just don't care and you'll just stop playing it. It used to drive you nuts, but you have come off with the other side. Like you just don't care. You'll just stop playing a game. As far as the spoiling thing, it's really people get really sensitive. Like, it's fine if you don't want to watch things this close to release. I'm not saying that like a media blackout even is the wrong thing, but if you're gonna watch a trailer, don't get your panties in a twist if it has a little more story stuff than you wanted to see, because Sony's not going to spoil The Last of Us in a state of play. That's not happening. What someone might call a spoiler in that trailer, not that I don't think anybody is not actually a spoiler. Now, TV spots are a different thing altogether, because the marketing teams for video game companies, developers, and publishers don't know what they're doing sometimes. And you will get people who, for instance, the Xenoblade remake there was like a TV spot either right before it launched or right after it came out, and people were like, if you haven't played this game, don't watch it. It's got a major spoiler.
Yeah, and that's more the thing.
I don't know. And when people say that, I don't know if that's because it's only because they know the game so well, or if I watch that, it's going to be like, oh, I can tell that was a big moment, and now I've already seen it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not big on this sort of thing, just because I like, part of the joy of playing this type of, well, not this type of game, but any game for me is figuring out the mechanics, letting the developer let me discover the game how they intended.
Sure.
And I want that full experience. I kind of want to go in blind and just form my own opinion. So.
I get that. I really do. Especially the having an unaltered opinion. I will also say that I've never watched something and then been like, oh, I understand this game inside and out. Like, from a mechanic standpoint, like it's only ever scratched the surface. I'm not like, oh, I've got the special insight and I know how to beat this. No, please.
No, that's
come
true.
on.
But like, okay, so for instance, I watched the Ghost of Tsushima state of play, and like now I feel like I know too much about it. Possibly,
you don't. I promise you don't. You don't know anything about that game. You think you do, but you don't.
I bet you. I don't even know what we should bet, but I'm going to write down stuff before that game comes out, and then I will see like what I'm right on.
There's a difference between being able to like use the years of experience, both, TV and television, and playing games to be able to kind of just predict the way a game plays out versus what the 1 hour state of play told you ahead of time.
And I'm not talking about story beats in that one. I'm more talking about like, I kind of feel like I know what this game is going to be.
I think
now I'm less excited about it because of that.
I think for the most part, that's a very similar sentiment across the board with this game. Just to talk about Ghost of Tsushima again, like when people saw that trailer, and even myself, I'm like, oh, I've seen this game before. And that all they did was let you know ahead of time so that you didn't buy it and then find out then. And I feel like that would have been more disappointing, honestly.
Well, that's why you can wait 2 days for reviews, or 2
days,
whatever.
FOMO.
Not even... What?
FOMO.
Oh well, I mean, a lot of times the review embargoes are ahead of release.
That's true. If the game doesn't look like total trash, they'll almost always let them, do it like 3 to 4 days, maybe even a week.
Naughty
sometimes.
Dog's doing a week for So
I mean, the game's been spoiled already, so
right. Yeah. Anyway, no, we can move on. That's where I stand on those. So from time to time, if there's a game I'm really excited about, I may wait for other people to watch something like this first and then hear what they have to say about it, and then I can watch it.
Sounds good. All right, let's go ahead and do our topic of the show. Jason, what is your most anticipated game or gaming related thing for the remaining months of 2020?
Well, Karch, as much as I can't wait for this year to be over so that we can just get to 2021 and be done with this, what I am actually looking forward to at the end of this year is Cyberpunk 2077. So I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about this game because I've purposely, again, been kind of burying my head in the sand when stuff pops up about it. But what I do know about it is that it's CD Projekt Red. I loved The Witcher. I think that this studio has emerged as probably one of the best, if not the best, RPG dev in that's around right now. And I'm super stoked to see what they have in store for us. Also, I love Keanu Reeves, but who doesn't? So, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to love it. I'm like almost positive I'm going to love it. Like, I'm going to buy this day one, probably pre-order, stay up all night and play it. Like, I'm so stoked.
It's a lot of faith you're putting in this.
I know, but I feel like if you were going to put your faith in any studio, this would be the one to do it.
I don't do that anymore. I have stopped doing that.
That's because you like bad games. And so when you like...
No. I've just seen too many BioWares and Bethesda's and too many, people. And I'm not saying this is true for CD Projekt Red at all. I'm saying they've made 3 games of any renown, and 2 of them nobody played compared to the number of people that played the third one. So really, everyone's frothing at the mouth to play this game because of one game. And that's it. And I find that to be strange. That's all. But I also can't seem to get past the first 4 hours of The Witcher 3. So what do I know?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you don't know a good game if it comes up and bites you in the neck.
No, my camera's out of focus.
Turns your daughter into a zombie.
That was cold. Spoilery.
Yeah.
My daughter is a zombie. We were going to reveal that next week.
All right, you know what? Go ahead and tell me your most hyped game so I can poo-poo on it.
Oh, I've got a lot. Got a lot of hyped games.
We'll go for it.
I was going to try to make a joke, but it didn't work.
Oh.
All right. I will start about what I'm less hyped about. For some reason, I'm not super thrilled to play Ghost of Tsushima anymore. Like, I'm gonna.
It's because of the state of play.
It's not the state of play. I think what happened was so Last of Us got quote unquote like delayed. Not quote unquote, it did. It got delayed, but it was like indefinite. And then it turned out it was really only like, it ended up being a month later.
I don't even, it was May 29th to June 19th, so not even a month.
Not even a month. So, but it felt like forever between when it got quote unquote delayed and then when it got its final announcement. But the entire time we knew Ghost of Tsushima was coming summer, and we probably knew it was in July. And so I've known that was coming out around the time that it's coming out for a while, but I didn't know that The Last of Us was going to be there. And I didn't know I was going to play it. I had planned on not playing that game. And then I started playing the original again. And so I'm probably going to pick up the second one. And then Xenoblade's it came out. And now I've got that game just kind of like right in front of me. And then they dropped Paper Mario and the Origami King. And I'm like, ooh, it comes out the same day. And that's definitely more up my alley. And there was another one. What was it? Oh, Harvest Moon is coming out like in July as well. And so now all of a sudden I have things just kind of competing for my attention. And so Ghosts just naturally lost some of my excitement. But we'll see. July 17th is still, well over a month away.
Yeah.
And we will see how I feel and what else has been announced between now and then. Or what's been delayed. Who knows? Maybe something gets delayed for some reason, because it still happens. Even that close out games will sometimes be pushed back for one reason or another. But if I had to say I was excited about something, and this is the pot calling the kettle black as far as a developer in one single game, but I am still stoked for the Hollow Knight sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong.
Well, you see, Karch, that developer's only made one game of any renown, and now everyone's putting all their eggs in one basket.
Except we aren't. It's just me. I'm the only one. Also, it'll be 15. It's gonna be $15. So.
Well, and the thing is like with this type of game, I think they've got their formula, and I don't think that it's, like going Witcher 3 to a totally new IP. Well, I shouldn't say totally new. It's based off a board game. Who cares? So going to this whole new to them IP, that's more of a risk than making a sequel, right? So, you would probably have different feelings about it if I said I was hyped for The Witcher 4 and that was the thing that was coming out this November. So I totally get your Hollow Knight sequel. It should be good. If anything, it should just be like a more refined version of what they've already produced. And I think they're totally capable of that.
Yeah, there's some cause for concern in the sense that it was originally just going to be like DLC. Or like a standalone DLC, though, I think, like just for a little separate story, and then it just ballooned into a sequel. And sometimes that works, and sometimes that doesn't work. So I'm hoping it does. And we'll see when it comes out. But the thing is, we still have no idea when it's coming out. The last we heard, they said it was coming out this year, but they also said that they wouldn't say anything more until they knew when it was coming out. And so between that radio silence still all the way into June, combined with the quarantine, it makes me wonder if it's coming out in 2020 at all anymore, which is fine. It just wouldn't qualify as me being anticipating it for 2020 if it wasn't. Sure. I'm super excited for Paper Mario, but that very much, it's contingent on how that game turns out. Like, that is not a day one purchase for me. If the reviews and impressions start to come in and it's like, it's only like slightly better or it's actually somehow worse, I don't think it will be. Like,
and you just go get your weird bug game.
Get my weird bug game, Bug Fables, the known quantity. And lastly, I am super excited for Harvest Moon. It's not Harvest Moon. It's Story of Seasons, which is the dumb new name that they gave all the Harvest Moon games that aren't actually Harvest Moon.
So talk me through that.
I think we've talked about it before. It's a cluster. So
we have.
Yeah. So
as soon as I Googled it, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So real quick, because we brought it up, Natsume used to publish Harvest Moon games in the US. Harvest Moon is a name that somehow they own. So when the developer for Harvest Moon called, I think it translates more directly to Story of Seasons in Japanese. When they split with Natsume, they couldn't take the name with them and a couple other things. Natsume kept it. They still make games called Harvest Moon, but they're not good. And so the Story of Seasons line continued, and they're remaking the best, in my opinion, objectively the best Harvest Moon game ever, which was Friends of Mineral Town. And it's going to be on my Switch, and that's going to be fun in the sun. So,
Greg was calling me. He better not have messed up my video.
Messed up what video?
The video I'm taking.
Oh, that's right. You're using your phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta get your webcam.
I'm going to check it real quick. Hold up.
Sure.
He did.
Oh, no.
Oh!
I guess we already know if he's the worst or not this week.
I hate you so much, Greg. Sorry for the interruption, everybody. Greg called me, and that knocked my video offline. I hope nobody's dead, because that's weird that he would have called me, but we'll find out if anyone's dead at the end of the episode.
Fingers crossed. That they're alive. That they're dead.
This is going to be really morbid if something is wrong. Okay. So now you've explained to me Harvest Moon, which we might have lost some of my video, but I'll keep your video. We'll figure it out. I'll edit it. Sure. It'll be fine. And now we can move in, if you're ready, to the question of the week.
Yes, Sean, as always.
Josh, where are you at here, man? I haven't got a question from you in a while.
It has been a while. Come on, Josh.
Yeah,
we're waiting.
Or Kane, you never write in.
Aaron, if you've caught up and you want to know something about video games, come on, man.
Come on.
Do it.
Do it, somebody.
All right. Thank you, Sean, though. And his question for the week is, what console do you have the fondest memories with and why?
Take care, Sean.
Jason, which console do you have the fondest memories of? Or what consoles? Because, we've had a lot of consoles throughout our life, both as boys and as men.
So I thought about this a while, and I think I maybe misread this question earlier. And so I kind of did more of like some of my fondest memories of gaming. So they're not necessarily tied to consoles, but obviously you can't really separate games from the consoles you play them on.
No,
so I think it'll dovetail nicely. So Karch and I were kind of talking about this earlier, and I think my gaming memories are a little bit different than his. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong when we get there, but like I think yours are kind of more intrinsically tied to the games themselves, whereas mine are more tied to the circumstances surrounding those games and like what was going on at that time in my life and who I was with and that sort of thing.
I've got stuff like that in spades. I just didn't go to that well this particular time.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe we'll have to flip-flop the way we answer this question some other time. But I had a handful of gaming memories that I will never forget. and I'm going to try to limit these to ones that I haven't already talked about on the show. So I think I have the stereotypical 90s kid opens an N64 on Christmas morning. I think that's kind of a rite of passage, so I don't know what 90s kids didn't have that. Did you have that?
I got it on Christmas. I don't remember the opening. Like, I was probably the spoiled brat that I am. I was just like, yeah, of course I got an N64. What I remember more was we didn't have the TV in my room, which is where we're going to hook it up, didn't have the red, yellow, white audio-visual cable plugs.
Oh, no.
And we didn't have a RF adapter, so Dave had to run out and get one.
Oh, okay.
And so I had to wait maybe even up to a day because it was Christmas. And this was back in the 90s and stuff just wasn't open on Christmas in the 90s. So
that's always the worst when you were missing like one thing to make your toy work and you couldn't play with it till the next day.
What did you get to play with it? What games did you get?
Well, I talked about that a couple episodes ago. I got Mario 64 and I got Mischief Makers.
That's right. Okay. Mine was the Diddy Kong Racing Bundle.
Ooh.
And that was the first and only game we had for a while. But man, that was a good game.
Yeah.
And they remade that for the DS, but I never played it. And I might someday on a whim go get it.
Yeah. Especially if they ever make it those like games digitally backwards compatible with the Switch somehow.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah. So that was one of mine. Another one of mine was our neighborhood Smash Bros. Tournaments that we used to have back in the day in the Forest Lakes community down in Florida.
Did I participate in those? Did I participate in those?
Yeah, man. You were at my house like every day.
I don't remember them.
Well, I mean, they weren't real tournaments. It was more of just like, we're going to play the heck out of this game and find out who's the best every time.
Sure.
I know you were there for some of that.
Makes sense.
But anyway, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say, suck it, Mike Bliss. You know what you did. I know you stole my holographic Charizard right out of my binder after school. I know you did it. I know it was you.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Anyway. Also, kind of the same thing from that Forest Lakes is, I don't remember if, I'm pretty sure you and I did this, and if we didn't, I know Greg and I did this, walking down to that video store that was next to the Bilo. So it was probably about 1.5 miles from our house. Mm-hmm. It was called Mel's. It was like a local video store.
Yeah, I remember Mel's.
Yeah, we would just go rent the worst, crappiest, not on purpose, it was just because we were dumb kids and we would just go off the box art. And we just rent terrible, terrible games. One of those games was Fighting Force 64. Have you ever played that game?
It doesn't ring a bell.
It's basically just like a 3D beat 'em up.
Uh-huh.
And really absolutely nothing special about it. I'm pretty sure you could beat the whole game in 90 minutes. But for whatever reason, we rented that game like 5 or 6 times. And we just loved it. Because you could do like up to, I want to say 4 players. Which is pretty cool. And then like it had something that I had never seen up to that point, which was like destructible environments. So you could pick up a lot of like weapons and you could destroy some of the car sitting there or the door or the vending machine. And I had never seen that before, so I was pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, this game, I'm looking at pictures of it. It looks entirely unremarkable.
It absolutely was. But we loved it. Sure. And then the last one I'll say is, Greg and I would always scrape change around the house. And in the 90s, some of you kids might not know this, but parents actually used cash to pay with things. And so a lot of times there was a pretty good amount of change laying around our house because your parents would come in with like a pocket full of change and just like throw it in the couch cushions or whatever. I don't know how the change ends up there. But we'd scrape around and we didn't have a change sorter or anything. So I had this little zipper suitcase. It was almost like more of a briefcase. But it was all fabric, and we loaded that thing with $60 worth of unwrapped change, and we like drug it down to the Walmart, which is probably about 2 miles from the house. This is heavy for a 7th grader, and we bought Enter the Matrix for the GameCube. And just so everyone knows, IGN gave that a 7.2 out of 10. I say, screw you, IGN. I give you a 7.2 out of 10. This game was perfection. And I have one distinct memory of like us staying up so late playing this game in your room that I swear the next morning I was like hallucinating blurred green and slow-mo in real life. It was wild.
No, I definitely remember that game, both playing it with you guys and not understanding one iota of how to play the multiplayer, and also eventually getting it myself and playing through the single player.
There was a multiplayer?
Yeah.
What were there were 2 Matrix games. Are you sure this one had a multiplayer?
Yep. We couldn't figure out. We literally couldn't.
But gotcha. Not online multiplayer.
No. It was local multiplayer. It had some weird code system though. Like we were literally just too stupid to figure out the UI. Like I'm sure if we did it now, we wouldn't even know what we couldn't figure out before.
I vaguely remember like one side was like the Matrix people, and like the other side were all Agent Smiths.
Maybe I don't.
And you had to do something.
I don't know, but like I remember when you went to go initiate the multiplayer, it, like you actually had like a console log that you had to like interface with, and like type something in, and we were like, "What do you do?" We weren't sure if there was some sort of cheat code entry. Like I said, we were just too stupid to figure it out because I can't imagine it was that complicated. But I don't know. We'll have to look up a video of it or something.
Yeah.
That game was awesome. I like that game. That was what 7th grade Karch and Jason needed. Yeah. Screw you, IGN.
That was our Max Payne. You know, like
pretty much.
We didn't play. I mean, I didn't play Max Payne. I don't know that my parents would have really let me buy that, but I had already seen the Matrix, and they were like, "Oh yeah, cool Matrix." So I got this.
2 girls kissed in it. You remember that stupid scene in the Reloaded? Yeah, Reloaded.
I can't stop. This isn't going to make a very good podcast, but the YouTube audience might appreciate that. Oh my gosh.
Now, you remember that scene in do you know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
So there's a scene in Reloaded, the movie.
Yeah.
There's the French chick. She's the girlfriend to the French guy. He's all blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Anyway, she's like, I want to know what true love is. And she kisses Neo like with way too much tongue while Trinity's watching. And she's like, oh, that's what it is. And in Enter the Matrix, you can play through as one of 2 like people. There's an Asian dude and there's a black woman who is in the Asian dude might be in the movie. I don't remember, but the black woman is. She's like the girlfriend or fiance or wife of another character who lives in the Zion place.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's in this game as well. And so basically Enter the Matrix is Matrix Reloaded, but with these other people instead for some reason. Like I don't remember the premise very well. Anyway, that scene happens and the cutscenes were live action. They were filmed with the actual actors from the movies and, you know, the people they were modeled after. And that scene happens for the man character and he doesn't kiss her. It doesn't happen. And then it happens for the female character and they make out for a little bit. And I was like, what? Even at the time, I was like, why did that happen? I don't understand why they did it with her and not him until I did understand. I was like, okay, well, I know why they did it now. But
wait, well, then you tell me.
Because they're just selling it. They wanted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you were going to get into the lore of the Matrix.
No.
Gotcha.
No. It was just a sex thing.
Not a story. Gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously that made a tremendous impression on you.
It really didn't. It really didn't.
Well, why do you remember it 20 years later?
Because we started talking about the game.
Okay.
I liked her hairdo, though. She had these cool, like, little, like, I don't know what you call them. They're like those little knobby things where, like, not, I guess they're a braid, but they're, like, coming, like, out of her head.
What was her? It was Will Smith's wife, right?
Was it Jada Pinkett Smith?
I think so.
You know, I think you're right. You're right. It was her.
Yeah,
anyway, she had a cool
she
hairstyle.
looked like a bad
Naomi.
MF
I want to say she did. And she was. The character was really cool in the game, and they both were. It was a really fun game. I love that game.
Yeah.
I'm never going to play it again. I will not tarnish my memory by playing it again.
Unless they need to remake that game.
You know what? The movies are going to get remade, you know, a little bit later than sooner at this point, but, you know.
They're getting remade? I thought they were just doing like a
Matrix 4. Whatever that is. Whatever, if it's a reboot or whatever, but Matrix 4 is a thing that will eventually happen. So. Also, earlier you said who hates Keanu? Dave hates Keanu.
But Dave's a movie snob. I can kind of see it. He doesn't hate him as a person.
Dave doesn't hate. You know, he puts his whole heart into it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do it half.
Okay. I'm gonna have to take that out.
I know. I'm sorry. It slipped. It's late.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll just put a note here in the footnote. But I have a lot to edit this week, so it's fun.
You do. You'll get a lot of practice.
Yeah.
All right. You have anything else before I start mine?
Take over, man.
I did not misunderstand the question because I know how to read. So
we've established I don't.
The question is, what console do you have the fondest memories with and why? I actually didn't answer the why part. I just kind of answered my Anyway, the GameCube. The GameCube is the console that I have the fondest memories with. I barely remember my NES, and then I threw it in the trash. The Sega was fun, but I didn't love it. And then I never got a Super Nintendo, so I got a 64, and that was great. I really liked my 64. I actually didn't have that many games for it. I never had Mario 64, but even of the games that existed for it, I had GoldenEye, I had Diddy Kong Racing, and I had Smash Bros. And Mario Party. That was it. I had a couple more, but they were like a random racing game and a random this and that game.
Did you not have Tony Hawk? Was that just mine and we would just
that was yours.
Play it back and forth?
Yeah, I never got it. I rented a lot. I rented a lot of 64 games.
Gotcha.
Because this was a time period where, I don't know, my parents didn't buy me games and I obviously didn't have enough money, so that wasn't happening. But no, the GameCube comes around and first and foremost, the games for the GameCube were amazing. Best first-party library of that generation. So between the Xbox and the PlayStation 2, the exclusives and the first-party games for that system were just hands down the best. Xbox came late, and all they really had was Halo, which I didn't care about. They had a couple others. I'm not saying they didn't have some great games, both
Crimson
first-party and
Skies.
third-party. I don't even know what that is.
I hate that game. Everyone loves that game. Shut up.
They got KOTOR. KOTOR is one of the best games ever.
Yeah.
And it's an Xbox exclusive, and KOTOR 2, of course. And then PS2. PS2 is what is the most successful selling console as far as units ever, and probably will remain so for the rest of time. And so as a result, it also probably had the most games for it, period. But in a very similar, like the Wii had the most games, they were not all quality. And this was still a time where Sony was not really fostering a lot of first party stuff. They had exclusives because they were the best in the business as far as consoles at the time, because they were eating Nintendo, up in competition, and Xbox was a fledgling thing. So of course, yeah, they had Final Fantasy, but that's a Squaresoft property. So it's does it count? Kind of. Anyway, Smash. I'm just going to start listing games. Smash Melee. Amazing. 10 out of 10. The Lord of the Rings games. They were not exclusive to the GameCube, but that's where I played them. And that was when I had, we were at fever pitch for Lord of the Rings, and those games, we thought that was realistic. That's we were so stupid as to
That's
think.
how I remember it. I remember it being photorealistic. I'm about to Google it.
These games had replay value. They had multiplayer, and they had something that I don't know if I've ever seen in another game before or since. They had bonus features. They had the makings of the movies and the games, and they got all the voice actors, all of them, except for maybe John Rice. No, they got John Rice Davies too. They got all the voice actors, and they were all in between. So it started with Two Towers, and they did Return of the King. So over the course of the two games, they had all the characters in it, and that was unheard of at the time, because those movies were just an absolute smash hit. So those people could have either just said no or asked for way too much money that the WDB would have never gone for it. But man, those games are so much fun. Just hacky slashy Lord of the Rings fun.
Yeah.
Paper
Some
Mario.
of the best hack and slash games of all times.
For sure. And not in a traditional way. They were very unique. I don't know if I've ever played a game like it.
Well, in I don't know about you. So for me, that particular game, and I'm sorry, I'm it kind of interrupting your flow here.
No, go ahead, man.
They had the combat system was actually pretty remarkable. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm always speaking from my own experience. That was one of the first games I'd ever played that had like a counter, like a parry.
It's the first one I remember playing with one as well.
And I just remember that upgrade tree being so cool because it would unlock certain combat mechanics, not just a little skill or a spell or whatever, a more powerful hit. I mean, it had those things too, but man.
And
such a good game.
It was at a time where licensed games were like a dime a dozen and they sucked. But this one wasn't. This one was really good. Like, it wanted you to feel like you were in the movie, and you felt like you were in the movie, and you played through, for the most part, just scenes from the movies. And it was a little rough where they had to kind of fill in the gaps, especially in Two Towers where there aren't as many battles. But it was still fun. The only bad thing about Two Towers is the one where you have to go through the forest. And then there's another level in Helm's Deep that's not very fun, when you're like having to kick ladders down off of the
I like
off
that
the wall.
One. I liked that one.
It gets really difficult on the harder ones. Like, it's just not fair how fast they get up the ladders, and then there's like this meter that you have to watch, and it's just like you want to just fight the enemies, but you can't because you have to go kick the ladders down, but the enemies are in the way, and so you got these two things fighting each other. And obviously it makes sense on paper, and I was probably just bad, but
it wasn't also multiplayer.
Yeah,
local?
You could play two people, maybe even three. I don't remember because there were 4 ports. I just don't remember. But yeah, that was the other thing. They had 3 very distinct characters you could play through the game as, or go back and replay other levels as. So you had Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn, and they all had very different playstyles. Gimli sucked, and the other 2 were awesome.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's not fair to Gimli, but they just designed him really poorly. He was supposed to be like the slow, strong one, but in that game, they did not account for slow, strong characters. They designed the enemies completely around that, or not, around him, as if to ignore him. All right. So then there was Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door. One of my favorite games of all time. Top 20 for sure. Wind Waker, a game that I did not like at launch because like many other people, was like, oh, kiddie stuff. I don't want no Zelda, etc. Might be my favorite Zelda. I'm waiting for the remake to the Switch, and I want to replay it, in HD. I don't want to go back and find a crappy version of it, because it's between that and Breath of the Wild, because they kind of do similar things with the exploring the sea and exploring Hyrule and stuff. But that game just, it's magical. I just wish it was as long as they originally wanted to make it. Twin Snakes, the remake of Metal Gear Solid 1, or Metal Gear Solid, I should say. I had never played the original on the PlayStation, and this was a graphical overhaul of that, and that game is hideous. I know a lot of people have a really fond, memories of that game, and a lot of people hate Twin Snakes, from what I understand, because they're like, oh, it ruins the spirit of the game. I love it. Like, that's what got me into Metal Gear. So if it didn't exist, I wouldn't have never played 2 or 3 or wanted to play the next 2 and never did. But I really, really love Twin Snakes. It's a great game. Tales of Symphonia, one of the most anime RPGs I ever played. And sorry, hold on. My mic moved way too much. There we go.
Just touch your lips to it.
Yeah, I should put my mouth on it right there. Okay.
This is an ASMR podcast now. Oh, that was gross. I might have to edit that out.
I hope you do. Tales of Symphonia. Ooh, one of the first non-Final Fantasy JRPGs I ever played, and kind of started my I'm going to start playing a lot of anime games that did not end for a long time. Crystal Chronicles, another fun multiplayer game. You had to use a link cable with a Game Boy Advance if you wanted to play with more than one person, even though the GameCube had 4 ports. It was the dumbest money-grubbing thing ever, but as a kid, you don't care, and you just have your parents buy it for you, and you have fun at Sean's house, and you play it. Star Wars Jedi Outcast, or whatever it was called. Sean and I would just jump into that and do the multiplayer lightsaber battles and fight 2 against a horde of people. It was awesome.
That was amazing.
Did you ever play that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever play it with us?
Possibly. I feel like there's no way we didn't, but I just don't remember off the top of my head.
I feel like I'm sure we did. Speaking of Sean, so much Soul Calibur 2. And I say Soul Calibur 2 specifically because it had Link in it. That was the one where each console, Xbox, PS2, and GameCube had a specific character. PS2 got Heihachi from Tekken. Xbox got what's his name?
Darth Vader.
Spawn.
Oh,
You're thinking
Spawn.
of the next one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Xbox got Spawn, and then of course GameCube wins that one hands down by getting Link, and he was really good, and that game's really good, and I love Soul Calibur, and I can't believe I've never played it again. Sonic Adventure 2, I know that came out for the Dreamcast, but nobody played the Dreamcast, and so I played a lot of that on GameCube, and that was a really good game. Even if you just take away the Chow stuff, the little side game, mini game, sim raise the baby thing, I legitimately enjoyed that game and played through the levels because they were so much fun over and over again. There's a lot of other games that I played and loved for that system that I just can't recall right now. I had probably the largest library I've ever had until I became an adult and had like a large spendable income. How I got a GameCube, I earned that console. So up until then, my parents would just buy me consoles, handhelds, etc., because it was my birthday or Christmas. I really wanted a GameCube though. Like I knew I was going to want this console. I knew Smash was coming out for it, and I was going to want to play Smash more. And my dad, of all people, who never like dissuaded my video games, but he always wanted me to, do more stuff outside and play sports and stuff, especially soccer, said if I got straight A's on my report card that I would get it. And I thought he meant like, so back then, if you remember in middle school, this was, we got report cards like what, six times a year?
9 weeks.
Every 9 weeks.
Maybe 6 weeks. One of the
No,
two.
6. I think that I said 6 times a year, which I think you're right is every 9 weeks.
Okay.
Instead of just getting one at the semester and then one at the end of the year. The point is we got a bunch. And I thought he meant straight A's the entire time. And what he meant was like an actual ending grade of an A in all my classes, which I got. And I didn't realize that that's what he meant. So while I was stoked I got straight A's at the end of the year, I thought I had missed my chance on the GameCube. But when I gave him that final report card, he's like, all right, we're going to get it. And I was like I had no idea that was coming because I thought I had missed it. And it was one of the best feelings I had as a child at that point. And
that's amazing.
It was. I think we got it kind of late. Like it wasn't like, I don't think it was even a year old. We might have even bought a used, maybe.
That would add up because we would have got our last report card in May, and they would have just come out that previous November.
Right. So yeah, not even a year old though. So I played the GameCube pretty much, day and date as it lived its life.
Because back then I feel like the launch windows, they never had a ton of games in that launch window.
Right. So that was what, 6th grade or 7th grade?
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I loved high school. High school was fun. I made some of my best memories and friends, and I met my wife there, and that's nice, I guess. But I love middle school. Middle school was fun. I didn't have a single bad year in middle school. Everybody has ups and downs, but I just had a great time being a kid, Yeah. Some people were trying way too hard to grow up in that phase. And I had what's that?
Oh, I was going to say for some reason, especially in Florida.
It's maybe especially in Florida, at least our part of Florida. I don't know if it's different elsewhere or whatever. I've never lived anywhere else. So, but I was just content to play video games, and the GameCube was there for me and my friends. My friends and I, you were there still, of course, obviously that's why it was such a great time. And Sean was there, and we had met Robert at that point, and it was just a lot of fun. And the GameCube was, those 3 years, and then a little bit before as well, or a little bit after, that was a very formative time. So I had a really good time with that console and all the games that came out for it. Unfortunately, I don't know why it just didn't sell. I know why. We're not getting into that, but it didn't do very well, which led to, kind of Nintendo being where they are now, the design decisions that they have for consoles and games.
Right. And being perfectly content being someone's second console.
Yeah. Basically, they kind of, the Wii did gangbusters, but that was an accident more than any kind of intended fell swoop of ingenious business decision. But yeah, that's easily my fondest memories with a console specifically. Love the Switch, probably my favorite console of all time. We'll see when the dust settles, but The nostalgia is going to be hard to beat for the GameCube. It was
Fair
purple.
enough.
And it was
Good
a cube.
answer.
Thank you.
Better than mine.
No.
Oh, man. What are you doing this week, dude?
What am I doing this week? We might go to Rachel's parents for some presents that they have for Juliet. I hope to play D&D with you and the other guys.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun. Sunday should be able to make it work.
He said maybe Friday too, if Friday works for you.
I'm supposed to be filming with Greg, but knowing Greg, that may or may not happen. So,
Speaking of Greg,
let me go get a phone and see if he actually answers this time when I want to talk to him.
he's already been the worst though. Like, that's not the decision that we're making right now.
No, it's not. This is to call him to tell him why.
Exactly.
Even though he kind of already knows, but I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, let's do it.
Pring, 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 pring. I hope we end some video of his. Like a YouTube video.
Yeah. Hope I ruined your song.
Yo, what's up?
hey, how's it going, man?
Character.
I own being the worst today because I called you. Did you? I'm assuming you said something about that already.
Yes, we did. We were calling you this week not to find out if whether or not you were the worst. We were just calling you to let you know.
Well, I'm even worse than that because the reason I was calling you, I was like, you know what? It's like midnight. I was like, you know, I bet Jason's asleep. I'm gonna call him in the middle of the night for once because you always call me in the middle of the day. So that all around.
Gosh. Okay. Well, thanks for calling. I'll call you back after the podcast because we'll have to talk workflow for this week.
I'm about to drop a plug for anyone who's still listening to this point in your podcast. Coming soon, Never Free to Play debates.
Woo! NFTP debates.
To make that sound a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
That'll make people want to come.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and stay.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, later.
See ya.
Okay. Well, at least he knows.
He jumped right into it, too.
Mm-hmm. All right, Karch, this has been a long episode, so...
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. I mean, well, you know what? It's probably right about on where we normally are. It's just, I don't know. I guess maybe we got started just a little later than we normally do.
We did. But, you know.
Anyway.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It was fun. It was blast. It was a blasty blast.
Sean's going to be moving soon. He's going to need lots of content to listen to, so...
We basically make this podcast for 3 people, and one of them only listens sometimes.
No, we have to include each other.
So,
I don't even listen to it, but I want to talk into this microphone. Like, I don't care if anybody listens to it at this point. I want to talk to you.
You don't even care if
about
you listen to it.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Well, just put the YouTube video up in the background for some background noise.
I do sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Now that we have YouTube videos.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Anyway. All right. Well, that is all we have for this week, folks. You can find us at neverfreetoplay.com or patreon.com/neverfreetoplay. Follow us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. We will try, but we are never free to play. I think that should just be our and no outro music necessary.
Nah, we need the outro music.